Yo, what is going on, guys? We are back today for another video, and this is a video that I've been looking forward to making all year long. So in the past years, what I've done is usually just make like a top 10 best champions released of that year, and then maybe like a top 5 or top 10 worst champions released that year. But I think going forward, what I'm going to start doing is just ranking every single champion from number 1 to number whatever the final amount is that was released that year. This year's going to be 24. And so just rank them 1 to 24 in like a 2-part video. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be doing part 1 is going to be the bottom half. So that's going to be spot 13th to spot 24th. And then in part 2, we'll be doing spot 12th to number 1. So to start us off today, oh yeah, actually before we get started, just a massive disclaimer that this entire list is my opinion, my sole and own opinion, which every single person is entitled to their own opinion, whether you think it is correct or wrong. We're all entitled to our own opinion, and the great thing, about this game is that we all have a different experience. With all these given champions over the course of the year, we've all pulled and ranked and gotten champions in different orders. We've all ranked different champions. We've all had a different experience, and those experiences shape our own personal biases with these champions and how we would rank them. So of course, like, you looking at my video and you think, oh, that champion should be there, this champion should be there. Like, of course you think that. Of course you don't just 100% agree with me, because we've had different experiences, and that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. But you still have to respect everyone else's experience and their opinion. So let's just make sure we keep things civil in the comments. It's totally cool to disagree, to even have arguments and discussions, but again, let's keep it civil. There's no need to be rude. There's no need to be a D-bag. If I see that, I'll just ban you or remove your comments if I feel like it. So we don't need that negativity on the channel. Let's keep it good, positive vibes. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. So coming in at the 13th spot, I actually just changed this one. We have a champion that has just been rebalanced, and that is Shocker. So Shocker, like, my good buddy MSD loves Shocker. He's been using him. He's had him in his decks like pretty much since Shocker came out. I'm pretty sure he pulled him early as well. And so Shocker, I was not that big of a fan, because when Shocker was first released, basically, Kabam, of course, released his deep dive. Now, in all of the gameplay that they showed with Shocker in the deep dive, he was actually bugged. So when Shocker actually came out, it was a different Shocker than what they showcased in the deep dive. Basically, they fixed the bug, which basically led to doing way less damage with his heavies, which, is the whole point of playing Shocker, and you build up a big heavy. It was a bit of a rough release because of that. And like, ever since, I really wasn't that, I don't know, I wasn't that impressed by Shocker. I always want to be impressed by Spider-Man villains. I love Spider-Man. But yeah, Shockers really wasn't doing it for me. He actually seemed to be like a better defender than attacker, even though he wasn't even meant to be a defender. He was like a sneaky defender that would kind of catch people. Yeah, no, I know he, for a fact, he annoyed a lot of people in Necropolis. He was, you had to fight him at least 3 times. So yeah, he's in there. But now his rebalancing changes have gone through, and I'm not even entirely sure what changed. If you guys want to let me know in the comment section, please do. But I've been seeing gameplay, and holy crap, I've been very, very impressed. Actually, I really wanted him out of the Gifted Guardians crystals. Fortunately, I never got the 7-star, so that is unfortunate. I'm sure I'll get him one day, but yeah, for now, and for probably like the next year, I'm going to be Shockerless. And that's sad, because this guy's rebalancing was really good, and he jumped up a couple of spots on this list after that. And he jumped up spots after rebalancing, and he just jumped up some more spots. So I'm thinking, like, yeah, like, he deserves to be up here. So starting us off, that's the best champion that we're going to be talking about today, rating-wise, Shocker. So that is the number 13th best champion of the year. All right, let's go ahead and switch gears now to the 14th best champion of the year, and that is Morbius. So the thing with Morbius is I misunderstood how he works, essentially, with his awakened ability. I thought it was a lot better than what it is. And I feel like I understand why I was confused, because, he gains this non-stacking, undying passive once he's awakened. So, and it's when you're taking direct damage from any source. Now, there are some key words here. Direct damage is a key word. That was kind of, or direct. That's the key word here, direct. You know, I was reading this as, you know, when taking damage from any source, gain a non-stacking Undying passive, and, you know, and I'm just interpreting that as, okay, if I have an Undying passive, I can't die. But that's the wrong way to interpret it, actually. Because you can die if you have the Undying passive. And I thought the only way you could die was if you got hit or you take blocked hits. But that is also not the case. Because again, this is limited to direct damage only. So damage that falls out of that category of being direct will kill you. So for example, let's say, you know, you have 5% health left. You trigger this Undying passive. And then you get, let's say, a Cold Snap debuff on you. That Cold Snap will kill you, even if you have the Undying passive. Because Cold Snap is classed as energy-based damage. So, yeah, this Awakened ability, this Undying ability, just isn't nearly as powerful as I thought it was. You know, I was under the impression that if you have this Undying active, which you can basically keep up 100% of the time if you're running these Suicide Masters, because the poison from that is direct damage. I thought as long as, you know, you have that Undying passive active, you can't die. But like I said, if there's another effect that is not direct damage as a passive, it'll kill you. So, like, originally, you know, when I thought Morbius was working the way that I was under the impression of, and if he did work that way, I would have had him way higher on the list. But because I now know how he does work, he had to go down a fair few spots, because that I was putting a lot of stock in that ability, and it's just not what I thought it was. However, you know, it's still a good ability to have, especially if you're running suicides. It's going to be really good, especially if you have like a max sig level, because then you can start healing from those masteries. But for me, and if you have a 7-star Morbius, it's really the first bullet point is the best part about this. And that's just, you know, being able to turn your against bleed immunes, turn those would-be bleeds into instead ruptures. And the only champion in the game that is immune to rupture is Scorpion. Scorpion's not bleed immune. So that means pretty much Morbius can fight any champion in the game and apply his effects. The only matchups you don't really want to take him into is Shruggers. So, you know, like your Kingpins, that kind of thing, that's just going to shrug off your debuffs anyways. You don't really want to bring Morbius there. But outside of that, if he's awakened, there's not that many limitations on him. So I do still think Morbius is a fantastic champion. But again, this is a competitive year. And yeah, so he's coming in the 14th spot. And yeah, I was wrong about Morbius, the way he worked. Just misunderstood. But now, after testing it, seeing how it actually works for myself, I understand. And yeah, I just don't put as much stock in that whole Undying thing. It's really just all about the ruptures. And having a SIG 27-star Morbius, even at SIG 20, it's very reliable, very useful. And I use Morbius for pretty much an entire Alliance War season. It's one of my main attackers. And I'm going to be having a full War Season compilation video of that coming soon with the Awakened Morbius wreaking havoc. So stay tuned for that. But that is our number 13 and number 14 spots, Shocker and Morbius, two Spider-Man related characters. All right, now we're going to shift gears and move to the 15th spot. And we're going to be talking about someone. So there's 24 champions here. And I said this is out of 24. But we're not going to be counting Deathless Guillotine just because I count her as separate. And I don't really think of her as like a release this year. We will be counting Maestro though. And instead of counting Guillotine Deathless, what we're going to do is talk about Ironman, because Ironman is essentially a 2023 champion. He is bound by the rebalancing program, so I 100% count him as a 2023 release, even though he doesn't have the tag. And the reason for that is because Ironman was the very first of his kind. That is, I like to call it a remix. So basically what that means is, you know, we had the Summoner voted for champion Gladiator come out in a month, but alongside Gladiator, instead of it being some other brand new champion being added to the game, it was this Iron Man who majority of players already had on their roster, and that Iron Man got a full kit update, new animations, new design, the whole shebang, everything. And that's the first time Kabam has ever done something like that, and I think the community as a whole can agree, we love it. and we would love to see more. I'm hoping that becomes like an annual thing, especially, again, if they time it with the Summoner's Choice Champion. I think that would be fantastic. The only thing I would change, really, is let us, the community, also vote for which champion we want to see get that kind of treatment. I think that would be perfect. But yeah, I think they did a really good job with Ironman. Again, he is subject to rebalancing, and that should be the next post, him and Gladiator. So we'll see if there are any changes to these guys. But yeah, Ironman, as he is, pretty fantastic champion. I brought this dude into one of my Necropolis paths for a big problematic fight, being Storm Pyramid X, and he did a pretty good job. He's extremely tanky. He's got a lot of really good abilities, some solid immunities as well. So yeah, I really think they just did a really great job with Iron Man. You know, he's not like top 10 of the year, but they took a complete garbage champion and made him extremely meta relevant in today's game. And what more can you really ask for than that? So that is Iron Man coming in at our number 15 spot. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the number 16 champion. So let's go ahead and put this back to 6-star 2023. The reason we're on 6 stars is just because every single 2023 champion exists as a 6-star, and the same cannot be said for 7 stars, because 7 stars came out this year. Okay, but our next champion here we have is Karate Mike's favorite, and that is Baron Zemo. So, this is exactly what I mean about opinions. If Karate Mike was making this video, I am quite confident Baron Zemo would be in his top 5 best champions released of the year. And again, he is totally entitled to that opinion. And if I was Mike, I'd probably be saying the same thing, because he's done some really, truly crazy things with Zemo. But I haven't really seen anyone else in the entire community do those same crazy things with Zemo. Mike's kind of the only one. So I think he's kind of onto something with Zemo. But I think because of, Mike being the golden standard of Zemo gameplay, and not many people not really having Zemo before he was released via the 6-star featured, it just kind of led to a lot of, I'd say Zemo was one of the most overhyped champions released this year. And then, it didn't help that his rebalancing kind of took away some of the cheesiness that he had access to with his whole Zemo lock mechanic, and just the whole route change debacle. Rank down tickets should have been given for Baron Zemo. The route has functioned the same way in game for like more than a year, but now that the whole Zemo lock thing came into light, they had to change it, and no compensation was provided to the players. It was not listed as a bug prior. There was just really no communication from Kabam. So this was one of their biggest, I'd say, screw ups in 2023, is the whole Zemo debacle. And for that reason, Zemo has left a very, very bad taste in my mouth, and I just don't want to play him. I don't really want to rank him. He was an option for Necropolis. I'm not doing that. I think I would much rather use Aegon, which I did and had an absolute blast doing. I highly recommend using Aegon far more than I would ever recommend a Baron Zemo, because again, Karate Mike, the guy who's in love with Zemo, he brought Zemo to Necropolis and did some great stuff with him, but he had 3 other Baron Zemos on the team. I don't really want to bring 3 more copies of the champion I'm already bringing. I don't know. That just sounds like way too much. And the reason for that is because Zemo has self synergies here. That the more Zemos you bring, the more it ramps him up. But I don't know, dude. I highly recommend Aegon. So that is Baron Zemo coming in at the 16th best champion of 2023. All right, let's go ahead and move now to the 17th best champion, and that is Vox. So I think Vox could have even been a bit higher. Vox is a very, very weird one, because so I don't have Vox at all, period. As you see, I don't have him as a 6-star. I don't have him as a 7-star. I have never once played this guy, so it's very hard for me to rank him. Again, it's all about our own experience. My experience with Vox is nothing. I have not pulled him. I have not played him. 0 experience. So, I have to rank him based on my knowledge and what I've seen and what I read, and what I see and read are basically complete polar opposites. When the Photon and Vox balance changes went through, reading through what people thought about that on my comment section, when it came to Vox, there was two camps. People were either in one camp or the other. And it was, oh, that's great. You know, I love my Vox. He's amazing. Or, what? Vox didn't get tuned up? And people complaining that Vox isn't good enough. Like, it's one or the other. Either they love Vox and they're happy he didn't change, or they don't like Vox and they're like, why isn't he not getting tuned up? And so, for me, it's a little bit tricky to navigate seeing all that. But I think Vox is a pretty good champion. I think he could have even gone higher on this list. But again, without personal experience, it's hard to put him any higher. From what I've seen, he seems pretty good. Seems like he can counter a lot of stuff. Seems like he has a lot of utility as an attacker. That's the only downside it seems with Vox, is that he seems very offensively limited. Just limited to only offense. You know, he just doesn't seem like a defender in any capacity, which, you know, isn't the worst thing. You know, if you're a good enough attacker, and I think he is. His main damage source is degen, which, you know, is one of the best damage sources possible. He has a ton of immunities to poison, power burn, drain, lock, and special lock. You know, that's not bad. That's decent stuff. So yeah, that for me, that's Vox coming in as the 17th best champion in 2023. Let me know what you guys think about that. Okay, moving on now to the number 18th spot, and that is LadyDeathStrike. So this is another champion that, again, I have very limited experience with. As you see, I do have the 6-star here. I took her up to rank 3, but that's it. I don't have the 7-star, and I don't really want the 7-star either. I'm actually quite glad that I haven't pulled her as a 7-star, and that's not to say like she's a bad champion or anything. I think LadyDeathStrike is pretty good. My good buddy Andrew the Rough has had her for a long time. He got her like at her initial Paragons. His luck was crazy. He got Dani and Lady D, who were the two first 2023 champions to debut as 7-stars. He got them both like right away and had them in his deck. So I've fought against her. I think she's a pretty good defender, actually, with the way she can heal special damage and then even get unstoppable and stuff. So at her base, she's a decent defender. She's a pretty good attacker as well. She's a domino counter, which is, you know, always a good thing. Her damage is through her ruptures, which again we've talked about with Morbius. You know, rupture is one of the best damage types to have. The only champion immune to it is Scorpion. So I guess just don't fight Scorpion with LadyDeathStrike and you should be okay. But yeah, just very, very limited experience with LadyDeathStrike. So yeah, I think she's great, but I think there's just been a lot of better tech champions released this year. There's a fair few tech champs this year, and a lot of them made a big splash, and I feel like LadyDeathStrike just a little tiny splash, you know? She's a good champ. Not trying to say she's bad in any capacity, but just not the cream of the crop. Alright, let's go ahead and move on now to number 19, and that is MoonDragon. So, MoonDragon was just included in the banquet event in the Gifted Guardians Crystal. And I would say MoonDragon is within the bottom 3 of that pool. I mean, there's 6 champions, so you know she's in the bottom 3. I think that's valid to say. I think there are definitely 3 champions in that pool that are far better than her. But that's not to say she's bad. So I did a testing stream for MoonDragon when she came out, and I was thoroughly surprised. I had actually a lot of fun playing her. She didn't like super wow me, but I was impressed. It's good. I did pull a 7-star from those Gifted Guardian Crystals. She's only unduped though, so I don't really think I'm going to be ranking her and investing in her. But I would say the 7-star skill class is one of the weakest, if not the weakest, when it comes to just 7 stars. So I think she is a good addition to that. The one thing I will say about MoonDragon is I think she's actually a sneaky defender. I remember one time I was doing a Battlegrounds match, and this was like a month or 2 after MoonDragon came out, and you know I never ever see her in anyone's decks. You know, we might start now. You know that with the whole banquet event, but prior to the banquet event, like, never really saw MoonDragon in anyone's deck until this one time I'm streaming Sky to MoonDragon at like the top of his deck. I'm like, oh, MoonDragon, okay. I didn't ban her because, like I said, I never see her, so I didn't think I'd need to ban her. And he put her on defense, and so when she's awakened, when she's in her form, her special attacks are passively unblockable. So that must have happened. She must have entered this Psionic Transcendence, and then she popped a special 2. And like I think I blocked like a special 2 before, but now that she's in this mode, it's unblockable, and it just KO'd me like, instantly. I got roasted. I was so caught off guard, and I was like, what? I literally have like MoonDragon PTSD from that. Like, I'm scared to fight her, which I probably shouldn't be saying, but because now people are gonna put her against me. But yeah, I think she's absolutely a sneaky defender. Definitely better than people give her credit for. But still, you know, in a year where we arguably one of the best years ever for champion releases, she's just not the cream of the crop. So that's MoonDragon coming at the number 19th spot. All right. Now we're going to 20th. So the 20th best champion of the year, in my opinion, we have Viv Vision. So again, this is another one where I am extremely limited. I never had Viv at all until literally, was it yesterday or 2 days ago? It was a couple of days ago. I finally pulled Viv Vision from a Tech Abyss Nexus. She was one of my last 2 champions to complete my basic pool roster, and we got her. So that's great. But again, like, I never had her prior. I don't think I ever did any testing when she first came out. So again, basically my experience with this champion is non-existent. My good friend Simula is a big Viv Vision lover, so shout out to him. And he's made some great content with her. So she did get rebalanced, and so I think they did fix some big pain points of her kit. But again, I have no experience with her prior to her rebalancing and post rebalancing. I just got her, so I haven't really had a chance to try her out yet. I think with her parrying is how you activate her phasing, which is very unique. But yeah, I really just can't say too much because I'm very unfamiliar with the champion. So but I do think she's decent. Like, I have her above some champions on this list that I do have experience with. So I am giving her a decent ranking, in my own opinion, here at that 20th spot, which might seem disrespectful to any Viv Vision lovers, but let's just say I definitely could have put her like 2 or 3 spots lower. So I'm giving her some hype by putting her at this spot. But yeah, that's the 20th spot, Viv Vision. All right, let's go ahead and move on to 21. So here we have a champion, Sandman. So Sandman is a very interesting one, dude. I was debating making a video, and it was going to be like the top 5 most disappointing champions of the year, something like that. And so Zemo was going to be on that list because what we talked about, the hype behind him, he's overhyped. And then, Shocker was going to be on that list as well because of his deep dive full fiasco. But now that he's rebalanced, actually, Shocker is kicking butt. So, yeah, Shocker's in a really good spot now. And Sandman was also going to be on that list because, man. Oh, Sandman. So, basically, I've been playing this game for about 7 years. And Sandman has always, been a request champion. Sandman is so cool, one of Spider-Man's more popular villains for sure. He's in Spider-Man 3 of the OG trilogy. He's such a cool character, Flint Marko. He's basically, Crocodile from One Piece. Like, it's just, sand powers are so cool. There's so much you can do with that. And the thing I think I was most excited about with Sandman was his immunity potential. Because, if you're made out of sand, you're Sand Logia, you don't have too many weaknesses. So you should have a ton of immunities. Now, Sandman does have good immunities. He's immunity to bleed, poison, and shock. Triple immunity, that's good. But I think myself and some others were hoping for a little bit more. I really wanted to see root immunity. I think root immunity could have been really cool with Sandman because think about it. He's particles of sand. A root is like a trap. How do you trap sand? You can't. Like, it makes complete logical sense for Sandman to be root immune. But no, instead, what did they give him? They gave him root offensively. And that's how you play Sandman. You build up into your mode, then you use heavies, you heavy spam, you're rooting the opponent, and you're dealing like big burst damages. So like when Sandman first came out, I think I was just kind of disappointed with the way that they went with his kit. Now that's like the thing in this game. It's like there's so many champions now, and there's so many champions have all different kinds of abilities. So like when it comes to introducing a champion to the game, like it's hard to imagine like what that champion's kit is going to look like, because like their powers, kind of what they do in the comics, but that could be totally translated differently in the MCOC. And I think Sandman's a good example of that. Like his whole play style, like I was not expecting that, and I'm not really the biggest fan of it still. But the biggest issue with Sandman was that he was underwhelming at first. He's not bad, but just underwhelming. He definitely needed some numbers tune-ups, which the rebalancing program backs that statement up. It completely backs it up, because he was rebalanced. He wasn't hitting the goals, so they had to bump the numbers up. And so they did that. And now this is a big problem, because the way the balancing program works is this was something I was confused about even. And so I think Kabam has done a poor job of like making this known to the community, because when you think about the rebalance program, a champion releases, then 3 months after their release it comes to their rebalance, and then there's a post, and then you think, okay, that's it. But no, it's not a 3-month process, which Kabam has even said. They've used those words, the rebalancing 3-month process, and I literally like said this back to them, and they're like, well, that was a mistake. It's a 6-month process. Rebalancing is a 6-month process. The first 3 months, they see how their champion's performing in game. They do the balance review. They do the post. But then there's another 3 months. And those next 3 months, that's where they test the balance changes and everything. And all of those balance changes are subject to change within those 3 months until it's in that spot that Kabam is happy with. And then we get the final form added to game. So that's the entire it's a 6-month process. It's not a 3-month process. But again, I thought it was a 3-month process myself. So it's very confusing to the player base. And so what happens is, in that second 3 of the 6 months process, there's no embargo on it. So, when the first iteration of rebalance changes are live and are being tested, that can be uploaded to YouTube by like me and other content creator program players, and that happens. And so that happened with Sandman. DLL made a video showcasing the changes you're talking about, and this is not only a content creator, this is a Kabam employee as well. And in his, I don't know if it was a video or stream, but he said, like this can change. These can change. This is still in the beta period for rebalancing. These are subject to change. But people don't always listen to that. They just see one fight, and the fight, Sandman putting up insane numbers. They see that fight, and they're like, oh my god, okay, Sandman looks good now. And people just run with that. And then other YouTubers make content showing that off. I think KT1 made a video showcasing from DLL's clip of like a Sandman fight, and it looked really good. And now all of a sudden, the entire community is hyped. Okay, Sandman's getting rebalanced. But then what happens? Then those initial beta changes are slightly changed, and that slight change makes a big impact on his gameplay loop. So he goes from doing a fight in 30 seconds, or he goes from doing a fight pre-balance in 60 seconds. After these first changes, it cuts it in half. So now he's doing that fight in 30 seconds. They're like, no, that's too fast. So then they change him again. Now he's somewhere in the middle, doing it in like 45 seconds. But again, the entire community sees that first 30-second fight, and they're like, oh my god, and everybody gets hyped, myself included, and then it gets changed, and then he's not nearly as good, and the not nearly as good is the one that we get. And then, again, it just leaves a bad taste in the entire community's mouth. So I really think what should happen is, with the whole rebalancing period, is like content shouldn't be being posted, because it just builds bad expectations, and honestly, I think it just ruins characters. Like Sandman for me now, like he's kind of ruined, and that's a shame, because I really do like Sandman. I wanted him to be better. He is better, but yeah, I don't know. It's just left a bad taste. Same thing with Zemo. So yeah, I don't know. And the same thing happened with Mole Man, for example. A bad taste was left. I haven't touched Mole Man since that whole debacle happened. So it just kind of like ruins characters for me when stuff like this happens. So that's kind of the whole deal with Sandman. And that's why he's placing at the 21st out of 24 champions of the year. All right, now let's move on to the 22nd champion, and that is Kindred. So Kindred, she's an interesting one. He was primarily built to be a defender, and I'd say he does that. He does a good job of that. He does need to be awakened. He definitely does want to be higher sig, just because when you try to kill him, if he's awakened, he's going to root you. And the higher the sig, the longer the duration of that root. And basically, he won't die until that root ends. And you can end the root early by throwing a special attack. So, it's totally play aroundable. So, yeah, Kindred, he's a good defender. But once you learn how to play around him, and if you can execute it, like knowing how to play around him is one thing, and then executing it is a completely other thing. But if you can do both of those things, then he's really not that bad of a defender. He's very easily countered. Again, if you have the knowledge and the execution, you can counter him with most champs. Like for example, Venom can take Kindred. Cost advantage. You can take Kindred fine if you know what you're doing. If you time things well, you can finish with full health. I've seen Fintech do it a bunch of times. So Kindred, he's primarily a defender, but there are many defenders released this year alone that are better than him, and way better than him on attack. So he's this defender-based champion that is doing okay on defense, but on attack, it's basically a potato. Myself and I think a lot of others were hoping that when Kindred's rebalancing came around, is that defensively he probably wouldn't change. The only thing I wanted to see him change defensively was his AI, just not throw as many heavies. But I think his defensive kit is totally fine. I just wanted to see some numbers get a bit of a bump up offensively. I didn't want anything to change defensively. Like, I didn't want him to become a better defender. I just wanted him to become a better attacker. I think a lot of people did too. And what happens? Nothing. He doesn't get any changes at all. So Kindred, not really that good of an attacker. And he has atrophy. The only champion in the game, I believe, that has this atrophy effect, and that is one of the new craziest defenders in the game. Their weakness, which is Maestro. So, Kindred literally built with the abilities to counter one of the new best defenders. And how is Kindred against Maestro? Not very good. Not very good at all. Very, very slow. So, yeah. Kindred, just meh. He's just a big meh for me at this point. 22nd out of 24 champions released this year. But again, I'm not saying he's bad. He's got some defensive use. Up until this point on the list, all these champions are still pretty good. It's been a very, very good year. Like I said, one of the best years of champs ever. But the last champion, oof. We'll get to that. But before we get to that final champion, we have the second last champion of the year. The second worst champion of the year, you could say. That is Dani Moonstar. Dani Midstar, if you will. However, she is getting some rebalance changes. Those are in the works right now. Those are in the pipeline right now. So after that happens, she definitely could become a lot better. But the whole thing with Dani Moonstar is she's meant to be a counter to Nick Fury and other champions that kind of cheat death. So like Hercules, Hela, Kindred maybe too. I don't know if it works for that, but those types of champions that have a cheat death mechanic, Dani is supposed to be able to kind of turn that off, bypass that, and just kill them. And obviously Nick Fury, one of the most meta relevant defenders the entire game, my very first ever Ascension, for a very good reason. He's a menace. Nick Fury's a big menace on defense, 2 health pools. So, Dani was supposed to be the counter. She was the first mutant champion we have gotten in half a year. Or maybe it was a full year. Because the previous year, 2022, we only got 3 mutants. And they were Sauron, Toad, and Captain Britain. And Sauron and Toad were in the first 2 months of the year. And then Captain Britain was in the first half. It had literally been a year without any mutants, and this was what we got. And, you know, the whole thing is she's supposed to counter Nick Fury. And in, like, ideal fights, like, I see people do it perfectly and things time up, they line up, and it goes well. And, oh, yeah, you killed Nick Fury, you took off his first life. But then I see people trying that against me, and it never works. I see people live streaming doing it, doesn't work. Like, it's just Nick, Dani against Nick Fury is one thing, but then in Battlegrounds with other nodes and everything, and AI and just everything, it's not easy to perfectly line things up and kill that second life. It's challenging. So I'm pretty sure with these rebalance changes, it's going to make that easier to do. But again, before those are live in game, and I see more with it, I'm just it's hard for me to gauge. Also, I'm very limited as well when it comes to Dani Moonstar. I have her as a 6-star here at rank 1. Was at level 12. I've never played her. I do have the 7-star actually. But I got that from a Titan. Yeah. Her and Colossus from Titans. And yeah, I have not used her a single time as a 7-star. Probably won't until the rebalance changes go through. And I think she also wants to be Awakened as well. My 7-star is not Awakened. So yeah, Dani, just a bit of a letdown. You know, for the first meeting we've had in so long, she's not really what I wanted her to be. But again, after rebalancing, maybe I'll change my mind. Maybe I'll think she's a lot better. Yeah, that's Dani. Yeah. But then we get, so that's the 23rd out of 24 championships here. Then we get to dead last. And I'd say after Dani, there's like a big gap in like how good I think champions are. And then we have the 24th spot. So I think, you know, we said Dani, Kindred, Vision, Viv Vision, Sandman, MoonDragon, LadyDeathStrike, Vox, Zemo, Shocker, Ironman, Morbius. I think all those champions are good. I would say like above Sandman, I'd say all the champions are really good. Sandman, Kindred, Dani, still good. Still definitely have some uses in the game. Good additions. But then we get to 24th, the final spot. And it's not good. It's just bad. It's trash. It's garbage. This is the worst champion of the year by a country mile. Like it's not even close. Not even a little bit close. Gladiator, the worst champion of 2023 by a lot. And so this stings like triple as hard, quadruple, quintuple as hard for me, because for a multitude of reasons. Let's start going over those reasons. Okay, reason number 1. I voted for this guy. I rallied my entire community to vote for this guy. And he sucks. So we won the vote just barely. We barely pulled out the W on that vote. It was like 50.5%. The White Tiger fans were at 49.5%. It was so close. So close, the vote. But we pulled it out. We pulled out the dub. And like all year, you know, we're getting hyped, man. Because like, you know, 7-stars hadn't even come out yet. And we're thinking, Gladiator's guaranteed to be a 7-star. Like I remember around the time when Adam Warlock came out, talking in my Alliance chat, we're all talking like, Adam Warlock is this good? Man, wait till Gladiator comes out. He's going to be guaranteed 7-star. We're all talking about like, yeah, I'm going to get that 7-star Guardian. And like, I remember those Alliance chats and thinking like, yeah, I'm going to get a 7-star Guardian or Gladiator too. I'm going to get one. He's going to be crazy. I'm going to take him to rank 2. So then fast forward, Gladiator gets added to the game alongside Ironman. And he introduces the worst mechanic I think we've ever seen. One of the worst gameplay mechanics of all time. And that is... where is it here? This right here. While attacking the opponent within striking distance during or immediately after their special attacks, incoming damage from hits is reduced by 8% in damage. Basic attacks deal bursts of 9,556 physical damage. So basically what this is is ideally your opponent has long-winded special attacks. So like they throw an attack, they wait, they throw another attack, they wait, they throw their final attack. Like that's what Gladiator wants, because after that first special attack, you dash in, you deal a burst of damage. They throw another special attack part, you dash in, deal a burst of damage. They deal that final attack, you dash in. So boom, you just dealt 27,000 damage in bursts. The problem with that is it's the opponent's special attack animation, which every champion's different, and there's not many champions that have crazy big openings in their specials. Like Cull Obsidian, for example, has a bunch of openings that you can punish. Well, that's great. Let me go bring my Gladiator against some Cull Obsidians and have a good time. No. I just absolutely despise this mechanic. It's so limited. Matchup-based limited. It's just garbage. Just take it out. It's... I absolutely hate this ability so much. It's so silly, I think. And it should not belong on a Summoner's Choice champion. So, like, you know, we get this. We voted for this guy. We get him in game. He's Summoner's Choice, and he's garbage. Everyone calls him mid. And, you know, I wanted to believe in him. I was hoping people were just, you know, wrong about him. And, you know, over-exaggerating. Because that's what this community loves to do on a champion that's maybe not the best. People love to meme on him and exaggerate how bad they are. And, you know, I tested Gladiator initially as like a high-rank 7-star Awaken and everything. And it wasn't terrible. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. And, you know, the whole Battle Round Brawl happened. And so it was supposed to be whoever gets top 4 gets to pick any 7-star in the game. And so I lost. So, you know, I got anywhere from 5th to 8th. And I was kind of bummed out. And then Kabam Mike tells us, you know what? You guys can pick any 7-star as well. I was like, what? And that definitely, like, eased the sting of losing. But, like, I definitely didn't feel deserving. Definitely didn't feel like I deserved a 7-star. Because I lost, you know? I did not make it to top 4. I didn't make it to round 2, which was my goal. Didn't get top 4. And I did not feel like I deserved a good champion. And I had already said that, you know, if I did make it top 4, I was going to pick Gladiator. And, again, like, rewinding to, like, when Adam Warlock was coming out. Like, me and my alliance were talking about 7-star Gladiator. And so I decided just to pick him. I'm like, yeah, you know, I'll just take Gladiator. And part of it was because, like, I didn't feel like I deserved, like, a really good champion. That's probably a lot more subconscious. But those thoughts were definitely in the back of my head. So yeah, I picked Gladiator, and I made, like, one video with him. It was a fun time making that one video with him on a path which obviously helped him. And he took the Cerastes boss, which, I mean, is needed to become Valiant. He did a really good job on that, but I mean, that's class advantage, and that's basically, once you beat him 3 times, it becomes an irrelevant boss. And yeah, I literally have not used Gladiator since then. I haven't used him in a single Battlegrounds meta. I haven't had him in any of my decks. And the really, like, frustrating thing, for example, is in a meta like this that just started today, we have this red scare. So offensive DOT champion. So if we go ahead and put this to tags, put this to damage over time, which is that tag, you'll see there's Gladiator. So finally, I was thinking, okay, you know, Gladiator, he's gonna have some use in Battlegrounds. He's a tagged champion. He's meant to thrive in this meta because he's tagged for it. Okay, so let's take a look at the nodes. And so it's Polka Dot Power, Power Shield. All right, you know, Gladiator has a ton of damage over time on his specials. That with Power Shield, his specials should be hitting really hard. Oh, okay. Oh, wait a second. with polka dot power, the attacker gains no power from landing or receiving attacks. Instead, they are granted 12% of a bar of power per second, while the defender is suffering from a damage over effect. Oh, well, Gladiator needs to throw his special 1 to apply Cold Snaps. He needs to throw his special 2 to apply Incinerates. So he's an absolute potato in this meta, because he can't get damage over time, and this red scar is whenever an offensive damage over time champion inflicts a damaging effect with a duration, which Gladiator has, they gain a 15% vicious passive. Gladiator would love a vicious passive. However, he can't gain the vicious passive because he can't throw a special, because he has no passive power gain. He can't use polka dot power, and he can't use power shield because he can't throw a special. So in a meta where he's tagged, he can't even be used. He's useless. Like, it's so frustrating. It's like insult on injury, and it's terrible. And so it's really just, we're all banking on the rebalancing, banking on the tune-up. And I knew that, like, when I pick Gladiator, I know he's not the best. But I'm hoping, and the hope was that eventually he will be good. Eventually. And like I said, him and Ironman, their rebalancing info, we should be getting it soon, next month, January. So I cannot wait to see the rebalancing on Gladiator. The most anticipated I have ever been for rebalancing, the rebalancing post. This guy needs so much help. So much help. And again, another one of the super frustrating things about this character is, so Gladiator in the comics is insanely powerful, like absurdly powerful. The way Gladiator works is the more confident he is, the stronger he is. So, if he is extremely overconfident, like ultra confident, which is, in his kit here, he goes from super confidence to super confidence to ultra confidence. So, when you're ultra confident, Gladiator should be basically unstoppable. Like, not even Juggernaut, the unstoppable champion. Like, Juggernaut, insanely powerful in the comics. Not even he can stop Gladiator once he's that confident. Gladiator also, like, he has so many feats in the comics that, like, he's in space and he's faced with, like, so ridiculously intense heat, like the heat that, like, basically, like, compared to, like, Nova Flames. Like, there's an argument for Gladiator to be Nova Flame immune, let alone Incinerate immune. He flies through the vacuum of space. He should absolutely have Cold Snap immunity. What does Gladiator have immunity-wise? Oh, let's see here. 200% ability accuracy, and immunity to Power Drain and Power Burn. Huh? What? Not a what? Like, they just completely robbed this guy of immunities. Like, it's not fair. It's truly not fair that he has no actual damage over time immunities. He should absolutely have Incinerate immunity. Absolutely have Cold Snap immunity. There's a big argument for him to have Poison immunity, or at least Poison resistance. I think the best way for it to work would just be, again, with his confidence. For each of these confidence buffs, it gives him a little bit of reduced damage from damage over time effects. It could just be everything. Similar to the Gallon's Herald pre-fight. For each fight you win, you gain percentage reduced to damage over time effects. That can be applied to any Cosmic Champion. Obviously, it has a cap. I think a cap of like 35%. And you could also cap Gladiators at a certain percent. But, man, this guy needs so much work. So, man, I'm so excited to see the rebalancing post. And I'm praying to Kabam Jesus that this guy gets the help that he needs. So, yeah, that is going to go ahead and do it, guys, for the bottom half of the 2023 champions ranked from number 1 to 24. Of course, starting today with 13th to 24. And then in part 2, we will have 12th to 1st. So, yeah, very excited about that one. That's going to go ahead and do it for this video, guys. Let's just go ahead and put this to my 7-star 2023s. Let's see what we're working with here. Here we go. So we have a fair few 7-stars from this year. Some of them very powerful, like Werewolf, Kushala, Maestro, Adam, Chilth. Those guys didn't even make it on this list, so they have to be on the other one. Yeah, that's going to go ahead and do it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown on this long video. So super long. I think I started talking a little bit too much on Gladiator. I keep calling him Guardian. The stupid Gifted Guardians Crystal. That whole name is stuck in my head. So when I think of G, that's what I'm getting. But yeah, that's gonna do it. I hope you guys enjoyed the ranking. Let me know if you agree, disagree. Again, let's keep it civil. It's totally fine to discuss, though. We all have different opinions. Let's try to respect that. And yeah, thank you so much for all love and support. Peace out.